to build a $20 million factory at an industrial park on Finger Road, allowing the company to modernize and stay in the city. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
NFL free agency frenzy. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Packers making moves in free agency. They've decided not to re-sign center Josh Myers. Instead, they bring in 49ers left guard Aaron Banks. The 27-year-old 6'6" Banks agreeing to a 4-year contract with Green Bay worth $77 million. It's likely Elton Jenkins will move from left guard to center. On defense, the Packers adding another player from the Raiders. It's defensive back Nate Hobbs, a 4-year deal worth $46 million, $16 million guaranteed. The Packers losing 27-year-old defensive lineman TJ Slayton today. He'll join the Bengals on a 2-year deal worth over $15 million. NBA, the Bucks headed to Indianapolis to play the Pacers tomorrow night after losing to the Cavaliers at home, 112-100.
Offensively, we're not good enough to win the game. I thought just standard defense, we did enough to win the game. We didn't do anything else enough.
That's Bucks head coach Doc Rivers. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low around 30 to the low 30s. Sunshine returns tomorrow and cooler, highs low 40s. But warmer 40s and 50s, even 60s return for later this week. Showers and storms and windy Friday, rain to snow and blustery Saturday. Currently at 62 degrees.
Attention! If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints caused by arthritis, overuse, or injury, you may be a candidate for a revolutionary therapy that could revitalize damaged tissue. This approach can provide long-lasting relief from pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. To find out if you're a viable candidate, you may request a free consultation from QC Kinetics by calling 920-332-5578. Instead of masking the symptoms, it goes to the root of the problem to resolve it at its source. Already used by thousands of satisfied patients nationwide, this joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 920-332-5578. That's 920-332-5578.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey everybody, join us next time. Former Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes joins us to discuss the impact on Wisconsin of Doge cuts. Be there.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays noon till 2. From De Pere. Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood.
Whatever gets you through the night, it's all right.
And now, a guy who loves to watch true crime, but only if it's shoplifting, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Nite Lite. Oh, I'm so glad the weekend is over and Monday is finally here and we can do another show in front of the entire state of Wisconsin because we are broadcasting live statewide from beautiful downtown Green Bay. Great to have you here on a Monday. And I don't think you don't need any pick-me-up today because it was so beautiful outside today. And Conrad, I'll go to you first because every night I ask you how you are, you say, well, pretty good. It was 45 today. You immediately jump to weather. I know it fuels you. How did you feel today?
Oh, I don't know if you could see, but I'm wearing shorts today.
I saw. I saw your shorts. They're a fine-looking pair of shorts. Did you come right from the golf course?
I wish I did.
Okay. Yeah, that's a beautiful day. Go ahead.
I gotta say, it for the stream, we're live on Twitter now. Twitter was down like all day. I just got it to work, so. Usual Twitter viewer, tune in now. We're live on there.
And things are really picking up. We have one viewer on Twitter right now, so I can tell people were a little disgruntled about Twitter. But it is up and running, so please join us on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or WGBW, right?
Yes. Yep.
You can also stream us on the app, folks. That is really easy to use. And if you're listening on live radio, well, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just great to have you. Monday night edition of Night Light, a beautiful day. Hopefully you're still outside and you're listening to us on the app and taking us with you. So however you found us, it's great to have you here. Fun show tonight. I've got 2 in-studio guests. I always get excited when I have guests coming into the studio. We have Northeast Wisconsin-based actor Dan Davies, who's doing some great things. He's going to be here to discuss some projects he has coming up and a big event coming up at the Tarleton Theater here just down the street. It'll be great to have Dan on the show again. He's been here before. We'll catch up with Dan, and we'll have a good old time. It'll be good to have him here. And then at 7:20, we have WGBW's own. Peter is not an on-air personality, but Peter Van Doren is a big-time. He's a cog here at WGBW, WISS. He does great stuff. He's a very hardworking guy. He's got a lot of great accounts, and he is a huge fantasy baseball guy. So he actually said, hey, I would love to discuss this on the air if you ever want to. And I said, that's a great idea. I don't really I've done fantasy football periodically, and even that I kind of slack off on. And that, as I understand it, is much easier than fantasy baseball.
A lot easier.
That much, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about how many games there are.
Yeah.
You got to set the lineup every single day.
Every day?
And obviously fantasy football, it's just, for Thursday.
I can't even keep up with that. Yeah.
Sunday and Monday. So, I mean, yeah, I play fantasy basketball.
Okay.
Which I do set my lineup every day.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot tougher for the scoring wise of baseball.
Yeah.
It's a lot tougher to determine who's going to be good that day, because they could go 0 for 4. Next day they could go 4 for 4 with 2 home runs.
Yeah. I have friends that have done it for years, and they do it every year. And they get together and they meet for the draft. And I don't know how they keep up with it.
So I drafted a team last night.
What does
2
that
days
mean?
ago.
You drafted a team. What is
I
that?
drafted a fantasy baseball team. I was like, yeah, why not give it a try? And my second pick was someone who just has to have Tommy John surgery, so he's out for the rest of the season.
So you got to drop him.
Yeah, yeah.
Same with football. You just cut him loose. Well, Peter Van Doren will be here at in the second hour. He's going to tell us everything. I have questions. I mean, I don't think it's something I'll do, but I feel like there's enough people out there who probably are into fantasy baseball. If I had more time, I think it's something I could really get into. But as I mentioned, I tend to slack off even with fantasy football. One year I won it with. One year I won my fantasy football league, and there were weeks I'd go into it where a guy didn't even play and I didn't replace him. Like everyone was so mad that I won. I'm like, hey, I got the goods, people. So we'll talk about fantasy baseball with Peter. That's coming up. That'll be fun. And talk about baseball in general. They're in the throes of spring training right now, right? Like it's full force. Baseball season is just around the corner. And on a day like this, I can't think of a better thing to talk about here at Night Light. With Pete Van Doren. He'll be here. It'll be fun. And let's see, what else? God, there's a lot going on. I saw some movies over the weekend. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Vanna White.
I want to, because when you were talking about when you were doing the Showbiz Beats, you said you went to go see Mickey 17.
I did.
I want to dive deep.
Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
But the commercials, I was like, what is this movie even about? Because I was so confused.
I will explain all of that after we do our question of the night.
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question. Question.
Pregunta.
Question.
Question.
Hey, I have a question. Questions? This question.
Domanda.
Question.
Question.
Questions.
What's in your sack lunch? Yeah, sounds kind of weird, but let me set this up. I'll preface this by saying it is National Pack Your Lunch Day. Do people still pack their lunches? I know they do. Sometimes you go to work and there's stuff in the refrigerator. A lot of people eat out. But this day in particular brought back great memories for me of putting a bag lunch together. When I was a kid, I used to put salami and cheese and mustard. I think that was my favorite. Well, peanut butter and jelly was probably my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
But I used to put salami, cheese, and some mustard as I got older. And then I got a hot lunch. I went to a Catholic school in Marinette. It wasn't a very big school, Marinette Catholic Central. And they would have, they were serving lunch for like 200 kids. And if they were serving, they made these pancakes. They would have pancake day. The pancakes were like an inch thick, really light. Not my cup of tea. If you didn't like what they were serving, you were screwed.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I guess I'm having bacon. But so I did take a sack lunch. I've done it as an adult at times. And I think that would be in my sack lunch. Salami with like cheddar cheese and mustard. And right now, that sounds pretty damn good. That's my sack lunch. What is your sack lunch, folks? It is National Sack Lunch Day. I'm sorry. It's National Pack Your Lunch Day. So I would love to hear from you. 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. These food questions have gone over gangbusters lately.
Yeah.
People love to talk about food and why. I mean, let's talk about a sack lunch. What's in yours? Let me know. What do you think, Conrad? What are you doing there?
I mean, I haven't packed a lunch in a long time.
So
Usually,
you eat out?
if I bring a lunch to the studio here, it's whatever I have leftovers in the.
Okay.
Just bringing something a little healthy. I don't try it. I don't want to eat out a lot because I did that in college, wasted a lot of money.
It's expensive. It adds
Yeah.
up for sure.
So I'd say when I was younger, though, I was a cold lunch person. I'd always get the pack a bag lunch because I didn't like what they served usually.
Right.
So PB&J was just the go-to for me, I think.
It's so weird because I remember my friends that went to like Marinette High School, and we were at the Catholic school, as I mentioned, much smaller. And they're like, oh, no, we have burgers. We don't like the main entree. We have burgers. We can get hot dogs. I'm like, what? It sounded like it was like fine dining over at the public high school. And I wouldn't say it's that, but at least you do have options. So for me, and when I went to Catholic school in Chicago or in Marinette, when we moved up there in junior high, it was kind of the same deal. There was hot lunch. Actually, at my Catholic school in Chicago, we always brought our lunch. And we just would sit it in the coat room. Like if you had a cold sandwich, you're eating that 4 hours later and it's warm.
Yeah.
So, but that's what's in my sack lunch. Salami, cheddar cheese, white bread, and mustard. I'm going retro here, and that sounds mighty damn fine right now. Tell us yours again, Conrad.
Well, all right. So I'd say PB&J was probably my favorite sandwich.
Right.
But when I was younger, I don't know why, I thought it was the coolest thing to have a Lunchable when you walked into the lunchroom.
Oh, wow.
So I always asked my mom for Lunchables. She didn't. They're
let me
so
ask you
unhealthy.
this.
And yeah.
How do you feel now about a Lunchable?
Oh, they're disgusting.
They're gross, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So nasty.
I was traumatized too because I always had kids that like, when I was a kid, my mom was kind of one of those, she wasn't like a total granola, but she put healthy stuff in there. I'd get a peanut butter sandwich, carrots, if I got lucky, maybe some Fritos or something.
Yeah.
But then there were always those kids that had like 2 bags of chips. Like mostly it was the side items that they were sporting and kind of showing off too. And I remember whenever I got the opportunity, I would take Doritos,
Yeah.
taco flavor typically, and I would put them on my peanut butter sandwich. Oh man. And I've done that as an adult at times.
As any
Delish.
sandwich you add chips to it, I feel like it tastes better for some reason.
You get that crunch.
You want to hear something funny? Is one of the friends I used to sit with at lunch every day. He'd always pack a lunch every day. A weird combination he had, I totally forgot about until now. Was he usually had a chocolate pudding cup, and he had a
Right.
string cheese,
Oh, gross.
and he dip his string
Oh,
cheese.
come on. That's awful. That's horrifying.
No, we thought it was gross, but he's like, no, it's
Totally
really good.
gross.
You got to try it.
I never got pudding. My mom would never put pudding in. Once in a while, she'd splurge and I'd get a ho-ho or a ding-dong, which are basically the same thing in a different presentation. But anyway, what's in your sack lunch? Let's have some fun with this one, folks. You can go back to your childhood, relive something, or even now, if you took a sack lunch now, how would you make it healthy? And you don't have to, certainly. There are no answers, folks. Only your answers. So I did see Mickey 17 this weekend. Bong Joon-ho's new movie. He is the creator of Parasite. He directed it, won an Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director. Very talented guy. And I think I told you last week I watched at the advice of, or at the mention of the film from Chris Foran, The Host. And that was good, from 2006, about a river monster. But I got to tell you, Mickey 17, I'll elaborate a little after the break, but Robert Pattinson is so annoying in the movie. He uses his voice. It's like, so, I'm just trying to get by here, and I'm an expendable. And then, he, his tougher self comes out in another version of himself. It's one of those. But nice message, really cool effects, too long, and kind of not that great. And that was his first swing with a big budget, too, which is too bad. I'm sure he'll get another one because I really like the guy. I think he's funny in interviews. I like his stuff. Did you see Mickey 17, folks? Let us know what you thought. I don't know. We'll talk more. We got a very short break here. Then we're going to tell you what happened on Saturday Night Live between Elon Musk and Mike Myers, sort of. That's coming up next on Night Light with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
And you're forever talking on the phone. And I try to call your name, but every time it comes out.
Listening to the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Matt and Air on Air.
While the teams get ready to choose their top draft pick, you can help Mino and the Mayor choose their top craft pick.
Northeast Wisconsin is home to amazing breweries, wineries, cideries, and distilleries, and we need your help picking the best.
We've drafted 10 of our favorites, but which local craft beverage creator will go to number 1? That's up to you. Top craft pick creators include Kerrigan Brothers Winery in Kaukauna, Stillmank Brewing Company in Green Bay, Old Station 31 Spirits in Dale, and Old Bavarian Brewing Company in Appleton. Vote for your favorite now by logging on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick. When you vote, you'll enter a random drawing to win $250 in gift cards from participating craft creators. Don't wait. Voting ends Friday, April 18th. Log on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick and vote right now. Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick, drafting Northeast Wisconsin's finest one sip at a time.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Folks, we've got to talk about Derek Van Orden. The second-term congressman representing Wisconsin's 3rd District is at it again, dodging public meetings and making all kinds of unhinged comments. As many scramble and struggle to understand the chaos of what's happening in Washington, D.C., and how it's impacting people here in Wisconsin, Van Orden has been as frustrating and disrespectful as ever. In one instance, Van Orden took to social media to berate a veteran who had been fired from his job at the VA by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. And the veteran in question is simply someone who was just reaching out to his congressman, looking for answers. Van Orden's office has also hastily canceled public meetings, and he has made some especially wild accusations about people who have been attending these public events. Congressman Van Orden needs to stop this unhinged madness, and more importantly, be more available and accountable to his constituents.
After Dan Davies will be here at 6:35. Peter Van Doren with some fantasy baseball talk coming up in hour 2. Our question tonight is, what is in your sack lunch? This is in honor of the National Pack Your Lunch Day. So you can tell us what's in your sack lunch, folks. You could tell us what you like to have for lunch. Elaborate. If you saw Mickey 17, love to hear your thoughts. I didn't think it was that great. That's kind of how we went into the break. You said you were looking forward to. Did you have friends that saw the film?
I was looking forward because I like Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I did too, typically.
I loved him as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Good
say
actor.
he doesn't get that side of him in that film, which kind of sucks.
It's really, he uses this really annoying, he's like this very passive hero with an annoying voice. And the creatures are cool. The scenery's great. I love the idea. But it goes on too long, and they don't really get into what the film really is until later. And in the meantime, you're stuck with him doing this, well, the planet was very cold, and I thought they were going to kill me, but they didn't. And it's just like, why is he doing that?
See,
Stop it.
When I was watching the trailer, I thought that he was like a test dummy and he died a bunch of times. That's what I got from the trailer.
That is the story. Like he signs up for this program where he's an expendable and they can kill him and they can reprint his body. And at the end of the movie, they think he's supposed to die from these creatures, but the creatures are friendly, and then they reprint him. So there's two of them, and it's called a multiple. And it's just got kind of convoluted. But Mark Ruffalo plays this politician in it, and he's great. But yeah, it's just not that great. I was kind of bummed out. I did watch Hell or High Water over the weekend just because I was looking for something to watch, and I saw it when it first came out. Liked it, didn't love it, but I know a lot of other people love it, so I gave it another chance. And yeah, good film. Taylor Sheridan wrote it. I'm sure most people have seen it by now. It's not like I'm breaking news or anything, but I don't know. And then you saw The Gorge.
I did. Yeah, I was like, why not go back to Apple TV?
Yeah.
Coughed up the $10. And, I really enjoy some of the stuff they put on Apple. Like the movies that I've seen, besides The Wolves, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And this movie, what you said was yeah, it's a great streaming film.
It's a great Netflix. I thought Netflix, but you're right. It's Apple TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think it's better than a Netflix film, actually.
Right. I would agree.
But I don't know. I thought it dragged in the first part. I feel like that first hour before they go into the gorge.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought I was this is getting somewhere really cool, because at the beginning you see his predecessor who was at the gorge, and he got in the helicopter and then they killed him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. What?
To give you the premise, it's two watchtowers.
Yeah.
In between them is a big gorge covered with smoke and murkiness, and you get a 1-year contract to go and guard the gorge. And your objective, and they're usually special forces guys, to make sure nothing escapes the gorge.
Yep.
Which is intriguing. One guy, the guy who got there before Miles Teller's character, says it was he thought it was the gates of hell. And they explain what happens, but Miles Teller's character falls for a woman in the other watchtower who's also a sniper, special forces, played by Anna Taylor-Joy or Anna Joy Taylor. And they have this crazy, weird romance from a mile apart. And, I think it's worth a watch because, like I said, it's a good streaming movie.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to the theater, I wouldn't have hated it, but I love the fact that I could watch it at home, and I love Miles Teller. So
the only problem I had with it is when they actually got into the gorge, which I knew was going to happen because he had what is that called? What?
The zip line.
Zip line, yes. Yeah. He had the zip line. I knew it was going to, it was going to malfunction.
You're not spoiling anything. Yeah.
Once he gets down there, she follows him down there when she sees him, and then I just feel like it drags. I feel like it's 40 minutes of down there, just them walking around, finding clues to what happens, but I feel like it could have been 20 minutes. It would have been fine.
I feel like every movie that's come out in the last 6 months has been a little too long, even the really good ones. But not The Brutalist. That was too short.
Captain America was way too long. I agree with that.
Yeah. They just fall in love with their work, and they're too long. Cut 20 minutes out, That's my issue with The Host, that Bong Joon-ho's movie from 2006. Half hour shorter. That thing's brilliant. But they went into all this stuff that had nothing to do with the river monster. Okay, so we'll get to we have a clip from Saturday night. I don't know if we'll get to that before the guest, but we'll work that in at some. It was Mike Myers appearing on the show again, I think the second time in 2 weeks. He played Elon Musk as Dr. Evil. And it's very funny. And then I don't know who the guy playing Trump was, but he was good, and the guy playing Marco Rubio. And it was a parody of what happened apparently last week in the White House. It was the one thing in the news apparently I didn't read. I didn't know there was all that drama, but we'll get to that clip. It's pretty funny. Our question of the night is, what is in your sack lunch? And that's in honor of National Pack Your Lunch Day. It's about time packing lunch had a national day, folks. That's all I'll say. Paula, let's start. Wow, we should start from the beginning. Oh, I went all the way back to Steady Eddie's text from last night. Monica from Mount Horeb checks in. She says, I was in office today, so I had a PB&J with jalapeno raspberry jelly. That sounds good. A mandarin orange and 4 large carrots. It's a pretty healthy lunch, Monica. I like the jalapeno raspberry jelly.
Yeah, that sounds
That's
fantastic.
dynamite. Diane from Madison checks in. She's also in the 608. She says, I would pack an apple, an orange, and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a bag of chips and orange juice. From Miss Diane in Madison. Well, thank you, Miss Diane. The orange juice is an interesting twist for your beverage of choice at lunch. I like that.
I liked apple juice with a PB&J.
That was a big thing in school, wasn't it? When you were a kid, you have apple juice. A little more exciting than water. There's always that kid back in the 70s and 80s who was drinking water. Like, that's what you should drink, but how ahead of the times were his parents? Most kids had soda, Kool-Aid.
No soda, just water. That's
no soda,
all.
just water. Thank you, Diane, for the text. And then Anna from Madison says, my sack lunch today would be a turkey sandwich on whole wheat bread with mustard, hummus, nice, and raw carrots. Ooh, I like that. Little crunch. And then Lorna Doone shortbread cookies and a bottle of water. I think I need to have lunch with Anna. That sounds dumb. Absolutely delicious. We got more texts coming in. Tell us what your favorite. What's in your sack lunch, folks? Very simple question. Let's have some fun with this. 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Actor Dan Davies comes up after the news, and then Peter Van Doren talks fantasy baseball in hour 2. It's Nightlight on a beautiful Monday in Wisconsin. Hope you're having a great night. It's Pete Schwaba. I'll be right back.
To Bay Settlement, 97.9 WGBW. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction has announced record-high graduation rates for high school students last year. According to the new data from the agency, the 2023-24 school year saw about 91% of Wisconsin's high school students graduate on time. Officials say that marks the highest rate since the 2009-2010 school year, when the state changed the way it calculated graduation rates. Attendance rates also increased, and chronic absenteeism decreased, marking the best numbers since the 2020-2021 school year. A number of U.S. Department of Agriculture workers in Wisconsin have been temporarily reinstated with questions over the legality of their firings. On Wednesday, the Merit Systems Protection Board ordered the agency to reinstate about 6,000 probationary staff members across the country for 45 days. The workers were fired amid efforts to drastically slash the federal workforce by the Trump administration and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Those workers still have little clarity on job security after those 45 days. Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany has reintroduced legislation to eliminate most renewable energy subsidies for solar and wind energy projects on farms. The bill, titled the Future Agricultural Retention and Management Act, would prevent taxpayer funding from being used to encourage developers to use those power sources instead of others. The legislation would not outright prevent developers from building wind turbines or solar panels. Tiffany says the legislation is meant to protect agricultural land for future generations. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. There might be a little trouble on Planet Netflix. Despite record gains last year, the streaming platform that seems to keep adding viewers and raising prices all at the same time saw its stock go down 8.5%, according to Variety, due to what most analysts are calling slower subscriber growth and a broader market reaction to President Trump's indecision on tariffs on Canada and Mexico. I know acting pretty much sounds like a cushy gig to most people outside the biz, but during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live last week, actor Walton Goggins told the story of how he was bitten by a snake while filming episode 3 of season 3 of The White Lotus. The irony was that the snake was supposed to bite his co-star, Amy Lou Wood, who plays his girlfriend on the show. Macho Man Goggins owned up, though, and says he didn't exactly play it cool. Instead, he yelled, "Oh my God, I got bit by a snake," repeatedly in front of everyone. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low around 30 to the low 30s. Sunshine returns tomorrow and cooler, highs low 40s. But warmer 40s and 50s, even 60s return for later this week. Showers and storms and windy Friday, rain to snow and blustery Saturday. It's 60 right now.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Can our NATO allies continue to rely on the United States under President Trump? What is your take, Professor Barrington?
The conversation had been going into Friday. Can Europe just get a seat at the table for these negotiations? The right question now is, can Europe build a new table? And I think that's where they are. February 28th, 2025 is going to be remembered as, I think, a pretty key date.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. Ready for the April election? Here's a special invitation for you. Join the free Protecting Justice for All conversation about the Wisconsin Supreme Court race Wednesday, March 12th from 5 till 7 p.m. at the Overture Center in Madison.
Up North News radio host Pat Kreitlow, Civic Media's Todd Alba, and Dan Schaefer will lead a guest discussion about the economy, education, environment, and more. Then stay for the Candidates Debate Watch Party.
Attend in person or listen to live coverage from the Overture Center in Madison, Wednesday night, March 12th from 5 till 7 on your local Civic Media radio station and the app. Rational Revolution with Mark Becker.
How are the Trump policies going to affect?
Hi, this is Jenny Slate, and you are listening to Night Light with Keith Schwaba.
Gonna be some sweet sounds coming down on the night shift.
All right, our question of the night is, what's in your sack lunch? It's National Pack Your Lunch Day. Paula from the 920 says, my favorite is also the PB&J, but I also like ham and cheese with mayo. My side snack is chips. That is the all-American meal. Or certainly sack lunch. Paula, well done. Conrad, how do you feel about your mom's choice?
I mean, that's a great choice right there.
That'll work, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler from Wisconsin Rapids says, what would Jake and Elwood have in their sacks? Jake and Elwood, the Blues Brothers he's talking about, but I don't remember a sack.
We're on a mission from God.
We're on a mission from God. That's the voice of Dan Davies, who joins me in the studio now, Wisconsin actor, and not that you only act in Wisconsin, but you're a Wisconsin-based actor.
Yep.
A lot of stuff going on. I'm excited to get to you.
Yeah, really fortunate, really busy.
Absolutely. So it's good to have you here. What is in your sack lunch, Dan Davies?
That's a personal question. No, I'm old school, genteel poverty from Wisconsin, so it's always bologna, cheese, white bread, mayonnaise, which actually is really good.
Yeah,
that's a great sandwich with a little onion.
An onion on a bologna and mayo sandwich.
Oh, it's really good.
That would make it a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's actually excellent.
Okay.
And then chips, the same.
What kind of chips?
Whatever the low budget ones.
Whatever's on sale. The generic Fritos or Doritos.
Yeah. The Moritos.
It's so funny. I remember having bologna as a kid and not thinking anything of it. But now when I literally get nauseous when I walk past bologna in the supermarket.
I still love it.
People still love it. They fry it.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I'm eating. It's the color and the texture, I think, that really creeps me out.
And you don't really know what's in it, too.
Right.
It could be chicken lips or,
So it probably is. And look, I went with salami. That's not much better, if at all.
Actually, it is much better.
Is it really?
Yeah. So, because that's one of my favorite sandwiches, too. Salami, cheese, mayonnaise, and onions on white bread.
Wow.
Yeah, the old Wonder Bread.
Okay. Old school Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
Not even a newer, whole grain, sleeker, healthier.
No. Hell no. They still make Wonder Bread, right? I mean,
sure. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen Wonder Bread. But you go for the generic Wonder Bread.
Which is Lunder Bread.
Right. Oh, that's great. So how have you been, dude? You've probably been a few months since you've been here, but I see some of your Facebook posts. I know you're busy.
Yeah.
So you like being busy like that, going from project to project? Do you get downtime?
Yeah, it's always a blessing. It's always really fortunate to be that. And I know you've had, Kraegers and all kinds of people, Ezekiel Drews on your show.
I don't
as
know
of
him
the-
well enough to call him Kraegers, though. I think he would punch me in the throat if I tried that. But you guys are tighter than we are.
Yeah, it's been. I'm just have a lot of great things coming up, and first and foremost is really that Giant Spider, the 50th anniversary screening, which we did have one in Waiwiga a number of months ago, but this is part of the 50th anniversary tour of the Giant Spider Invasion, which is cult classic, directed by Bill Rebane, filmed in northern Wisconsin with Alan Hale and Barbara Hale and all kinds of actors.
And no relation.
No
between
relation.
those
That
two.
was really weird.
It
Yeah,
is.
Skipper and Barbara Hale was from Perry Mason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's actually a really good film, and it's the 50th anniversary. So Bill Rebane will be there. He's 88
Right.
years young, and he's going to be there and, signing autographs and all kinds of. I'm hosting it, and we're having the Rise of Dearmageddon.
Right.
The proof of concept that we put together for a feature film that we'd like to start filming this summer, hopefully, fall. And that's going to start the evening off, and then my shtick, and then we'll introduce Bill Rebane, and it's at the Tarleton, part of the Green Bay Film Festival.
That's
It's
so great.
this Friday at 7:00. Tickets
about
are still
that?
available, and they're dirt cheap. They're only like $10.
That's the best. Film festivals are great. I love almost any film festival I've been to. I just like the experience. I like the celebration of movies. But this festival, $10 a pop, because they can get expensive. Some
Yeah.
festivals are expensive, and I still feel like it's worth the money. But $10, you almost can't afford not to go.
Well,
Even if you hate movies,
Well, that's
you
the
have to
thing.
go.
And
spend
at the
$10.
Tarleton too, which is really a cool venue.
Yeah.
And it's been around. It's been a cinema since I think 1925 or
Right.
something like that. And it's one of the oldest north of Milwaukee. It's beautiful. I love it. So it's going to be a great venue, a great time. And Bill Rebane is just an amazing guy. You've had him.
He's been
your
on the show,
before.
yeah.
Yeah. He's 88.
I want to tell you something about Bill Rebane. When I was putting my questions together, I can't type anymore, Dan. I hate typing. So I use voice a lot. And when I
Mhm.
said Bill Rebane's name, it came up as Billy Rubin.
That's his Jewish half brother. I'm Billy Rubin. I'm
So-
not from the north of
Correct.
Wisconsin.
And if Bill shows up looking jaundiced or yellow, you'll know it's because he lacks Billy Rubin. But and I hope that doesn't happen. No, he's been on the show. He's great. He's very sharp. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this about Bill. As sharp as he still seemed, I know he has some physical issues. He probably, for those reasons alone, could not direct.
Yeah.
But does he still write?
Yeah, he still writes. He could direct though, but it would be shorter days. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be the long 8 to 12-hour days. He'd be able to direct. He's still sharp as a tack. He's still writing things, still crafting and creating things. He'll say, Dan, I've got a part for you, and this, and this, and he's been in the business for over 60 years.
How about that? Jeez.
And he knows so many of the old school guys from Hollywood and worked with them since about the late 1950s. And yeah, he still has projects, and his darling though is Giant Spider Invasion. That was a
Yeah.
top 25 box office when it came out in 1975.
Right.
Which is just crazy. That's when Jaws came out and all these, great films. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and all kinds of stuff. And Giant Spider is right up there with him. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's going to be fun this Friday.
And it sounds like Bill kind of got screwed on some
Yeah,
of the
he
money
did.
issues.
Yeah,
Big
and
creative Hollywood accounting.
Yeah,
which,
which happened a lot during
Yeah.
that time.
I
So
think it still happens.
and I think it does too. Yeah, Sean Connery was the one to kind of put some of that shenanigans to rest, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back about 25, 30 years ago. He wanted to go through their books, so-
Oh, wow.
Yeah, let me see. Because he was promised like 4 percentage points, net percentage points, and there's never net. But he says, well, there's got to be, So he was calling him up saying, I'll come visit you, and we'll go through the books together. And they're like, oh, you don't have to do that because he's a bad.
Oh, we forgot to carry you one. We'll cut a check. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I have a lot of my friends are writers, and Steve Rednick, Leo Benvenuti have been on this show. And I've never asked them directly in person, but I've heard that when they wrote the Santa Claus, the studio, they always offer net points. And I remember when we sold a guy thing, it was like, well, you'll get 5% of the net. And everyone's like, you're never going to see that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Well, in the case of the Santa Claus, here's how it happened. Here's what has to happen for you to get net points in Hollywood. the actor, Tim Allen, was his first feature film, so they didn't overpay him. The film did so well, they didn't promise any of the gross to anybody. So even with creative Hollywood accounting, they couldn't hide the profits.
Yeah.
And they had to pay. But that's what it takes. That's so wrong. Anyway,
It
Bill,
is.
I
Yeah.
understand, fell kind of victim to that.
He did really, and but there are other things in the works. You might be doing Giant Spider 2.
Oh, no way. That's
Yeah,
great.
and he's got these other great projects, and it's an honor when he asked me to be a part of them.
Sure.
And to have a role in them. I'm just like, Bill, I've been a fan of his. I saw Giant Spider Invasion when I was 9 years old.
You said when it first came out?
Yeah, it was at the
Oh, wow.
Rosa in Wapaka, Wisconsin.
Huh.
And I went with one of my uncles. I think he was drunk. And he's like, Daddy, we're going to go see a giant spider formation. I'm like, what the hell?
You didn't know he was talking about a movie.
No. My
Probably
Uncle
wept
Wayne
openly.
actually, he came off the Menominee Res and then took me to a film. And then we went into a bar right afterwards, which
At
was
10?
fun. Yeah, 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What'd you
that's
have?
my life.
An old fashioned?
No, the Shirley Temples.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, but he was at least kind of cool that way. He wouldn't feed me drinks or anything until I was probably 12. So bless his heart.
That would be the perfect opportunity for you to slide your Shirley Temple glass back across the bar and say, don't be afraid to put a little booze in it.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
I can't develop an alcohol issue if I don't have any
I'm
booze.
10 going on 21. Bring it on. No. Yeah.
So what can people expect, Dan? Like, you're going to host the occasion for the 50th anniversary at the Tarleton. If people decide to go, let's say they've never seen the film, what can they expect in terms of the movie and then what happens afterwards?
Sure. So we'll start the evening off. I think it's either Krager's or Nick or Vance is going to give me an intro. I'll come on, do my shtick. We'll do the Rise of Dearmageddon, that proof of concept that we shot, which is it's winning film festivals and all kinds of things. It's about 15 minutes. I'll come back on again and do a little shtick and then do a little intro to the Giant Spider Invasion. I'll intro Bill Rebane and then the film. And then we'll have a Q&A after.
That's so great. What's the reaction like? You showed this at Waiwiga.
Yeah.
When people see Giant Spider, I'm sure film enthusiasts love it.
Yeah.
Have you seen people that didn't know what to expect that went in? What's their reaction?
So
been?
we got a standing ovation in Waiwiga at the
no
Gerald Opera House, which was really, really cool. And, Bill was, his daughter showed up kind of unannounced, surprise, and there were friends he hadn't seen for years. And it was a wonderful event. So we're hoping the same thing this Friday. And being part of the Green Bay Film Festival and being part of the Tarleton is always nice.
Yeah, for sure.
When you do these events.
You say proof of concept. For people that might not understand that, I don't fully understand it. That's when you shoot a part of the film to show to investors. Tell us about that a little
So we
bit.
shot 15 minutes worth of a film that we're going to start hopefully shooting this summer, fall. It is we call it the Citizen Kane of apocalyptic zombie deer musical.
It's about time somebody made one, right?
And it's a comedy and it's a musical and it has a really good message. And we shot the 15 minutes and we sent it to a bunch of film festivals. It ended up winning a lot of them, which surprised us.
Nice.
And now we're going to put the prospectus and pitch packet together to raise money for it. And you show them the 15 minutes to say, this is what we did on a shoestring budget. Imagine what we can do with, $200,000
With your money.
Yeah, we're going to take your money and run.
So you get the proof of concept. Have you raised, I assume you've raised money for projects because you've done a lot of independent films, a lot of films. What is that process like? I'm sure people listening are like, my guest, by the way, is Dan Davies. He's a local actor and filmmaker. Check him out at the Tarleton this Friday night, right?
Yep, this Friday
for the 50th anniversary of Giant Spider Invasion. Dan does great work as a host as well as an actor. So, I got totally sidetracked. What's it like going and raising money? I've done it myself too.
Yeah.
I hate it.
It's terrible. Yeah.
What's it been like for you?
It's basically, you have to do the, horse and pony show, but you have to have a real prospectus. You have to show the ROI, return on investment potential. You have to go through all of that. And we could do Kickstarter, GoFundMe. There's all different angles to go at it to raise the money.
Yeah.
But if you could get a few angel investors, and they literally are angels, because to be honest with you, it's not, it's any investment nowadays is risky, but film is. is especially risky. But you try to mollify that by saying we've got already a distributor interested. We got 3 distributors actually interested in the project before it's even made. So you have to kind of say we've got a distributor. This is who stars in it. This is boom, boom, boom. This is your return on investment, and then you just try to raise from then.
So you say that, but I feel like, you know, at least when I would approach people, I would say, look, investing money is risky to begin with. But for one guy in particular, I'm like, you could invest in another parking lot.
Yeah.
Probably have a safer investment, obviously. Or you can invest in something really cool.
Yeah.
And have your name on it.
You bet.
And I mean, does that resonate with people? Are they interested in being part of it that way?
When you pitch it as invest in your local economy, local filmmakers, and it's a creative endeavor. You can be part of this creative endeavor.
Very cool. All right, we're going to get into that. I want to ask you about The Rise of Dearmageddon, the proof of concept. And you have another film, Ed Gein the Musical. Oh, that's a stage play.
Yeah, no, it's a stage play.
All right, we'll talk about that. It's the next Hamilton, maybe. Right? You never know.
Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd, there you go. All right, Dan Davies, local actor, Northeast Wisconsin-based actor, but he acts all over the place. He's acting up tonight in the studio, and that's why it's great to have him here. This is Pete Schwaba, Nightlight. We're coming right back on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Here I start, and it breaks my heart. When did I fall? I wanna cry, cry, cry alone. When you're feeling blue, I'm waiting just for you. Someone's living for their love. Someone's living for their love.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of active liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you. New Nordic.
No more mold, no more damage, no more slipping and hurting. Make your ordinary bathroom extraordinary for only $99 per month. New shower, new door, new tub, new wall, new anti-slip technology. BCI Bath and Shower is made in America for the highest quality. First 50 callers save $1,500 on a Never-Clear glass treated door. BCI Bath and Shower. Interest-free financing options. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115. 800-329-4115.
Nerds, it's time to come together. I'm Amanda Nimmer, bringing you your new Wisco 411, and this is your time to rise because one of the largest Star Wars fan collections in the world is coming February 1st through April 27th, showcasing iconic characters, vehicles, memorable scenes from the franchise. There are 142 collected items, including a life-size
From the 814, Jameson, he's in Pennsylvania, says, did you mean what's your six-pack lunch? Just kidding. If anything, that's an iced tea, an energy bar, and then hope to get in a smoke before the break is over. Hashtag working life. I would imagine if Jameson had to give up something out of that, it would not be the smoke. Just guessing. Daniel from Manassas says his sack lunch would be, oh, no, this is not a sack lunch. Okay, Daniel is commenting on Mickey 17. He says, I imagine Michael Keaton's 1996 movie Multiplicity when I heard about Mickey 17. You know what, Daniel? I didn't love Multiplicity. It was a great idea, but I don't even think Mickey 17 is as good as that. That's my personal, someone said a Trump sandwich. Old white bread full of bologna, Russian dressing, and a small pickle.
Small pickle. That's funny.
Oh, I don't usually talk about politics. It was tough not to read that. I know nothing about the pickle. Okay. So Dan Davies is here, ladies and gentlemen. He is a do you live in Appleton?
I live in Appleton.
Okay. Yep. Appleton-based actor. Are there other actors in Appleton that are as kind of busy as you? Do you have circles that you can hang with there?
Well, that Willem Dafoe is from Appleton, and Harry Houdini and Edna Ferber, and so Appleton has had a lot of celebrities. But yeah, I love Wisconsin. I'm a massive Packer fan. I love living here. And to be honest with you, I've done Nollywood films, so that I've done films in Nigeria, Ghana, Serbia, Qatar, Ireland, Jamaica, Bahamas, all over the United States and Canada. But Appleton is my home.
Yeah.
I don't like our winters anymore, but I love living here. I love living in Northeast Wisconsin. The people are amazing. It's inexpensive living, and low crime and lots of beer.
Isn't that funny? You're saying it's inexpensive. Even Appleton, by standards, other places, is still very affordable. Where I live, it's really affordable. You want to buy a house in Marinette, Dan? They'll send you a cab fare. You can go up there and check it out. So that's cool. So, and why not? Like with acting, you can live as long as you have connections and you have people looking for work for you.
Yep.
It makes sense.
And a lot of times I'm doing auditions. If I'm asked to do an audition, sometimes somebody will see something on Netflix or Hulu and they'll go, "Oh, Dan, you're going to be good for this role. We'll just attach you." But if I do an audition, I have literally a studio in my house.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm able to do it. So that I literally did one, and there were 3,500 other gentlemen up for the role. This film that was going to be shot in New York, and it had musical elements to it, and I didn't get it, but it was narrowed down, which is always kind of cool. But 3,500 other guys.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a casting director's assistant who probably hates his life. Hacking through all that tape.
Oh, yeah.
You said, all right, let's stick with this. You mentioned musical. Dear Mageddon the musical is a stage play.
Well, Dear Mageddon the musical is
I'm sorry, Ed Gein is you have two musicals, and that's kind of where I was going with this anyway.
Yep.
What is your musical background?
So I'm from Wapaka High School. We had a great choral director. He was there for about 40 years. His name is Gerald Kniffel. He really got me interested in acting and musicals.
Okay.
And he said, Dan, you could do this for the rest of your life if you put your head to it. And I did, and I created Ed Gein the Musical in 2010. And that got nationwide on PBS as well as Retro TV Network. Had 500 theatrical screenings all over the U.S. And then that got resurrected. SRS Cinema bought it. We did another 13th anniversary tour last summer. And now it's being made into a theatrical stage play, which I'm really super excited for. So I adapted my screenplay into a stage play and got really great actors. We got Ezekiel Drews, the actor from Milwaukee, stage actor and film actor, to play Ed Gein. I'm playing the sheriff in it. Our director is Deborah Lee from the Oshkosh area. We have a great cast and crew, great people that are working their butts off for our world premiere, which is April 4 through the 6th in Oshkosh at the Time Community Theater, which is really cool because it's a 501c3. So all the rental fees, all the concessions, and a bit of the tickets go back to this 501c3, which helps this theater cinema in the middle of downtown Oshkosh. So we're super excited for it, and we're getting a lot of amazing press, like crazy press too, with it.
So when you wrote the thing, you're not the main actor, but did you have to go out and raise money for this, or is this like a company approaches you and says we'd like to do this?
When the film, I myself and my business partner, we self-funded that.
Okay.
The theatrical play I'm funding as well. But we have to. I'd like it to get to a point where have it so it's off Broadway.
Yeah.
I've got interest in Minneapolis, got interest in Chicago, interest in Boston to actually have the theatrical play there. So it's really a unique play. It's a musical about a necrophiliac, cannibalistic serial killer.
All I can think about is singing and dancing when you put it that way. That's how do you not want to see this, folks? The 4th through the 6th in Oshkosh. Where can people find out more information about that? If they want to go?
They could go to the Time Community Theater, their website in Oshkosh, or you could go to edgeinthemusical-play.com. That's edgeinthemusical-play.com. Go on to that website, and it'll show you what about tickets and the background of the play itself and all kinds of fun things.
Very nice. We have a text for you. We'll read that. Can you stick around through the news?
I would love that.
All right, we'll do that, and we'll read some more of your texts. What is in your sack lunch, folks? That's our question tonight. Annie from Watertown says, my father, born 1927, spoke with ethereal love for the goose grease sandwiches warmed by the schoolhouse wood stove. He died from heart disease 73 years ago, but next generation worse. I feel kind of bad for Annie. I started laughing, and now it's like we're going to decipher that text. Annie, I'm sorry. We're coming right back with Dan Davies, Peter Van Doren, and Fantasy Baseball Talk coming up in hour number 2. It's Pete Schwaba and Night Light on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Drummer sound, can feel my heart begin to pound. So you're tired, just wanna close your eyes, follow your dream down. We made a promise,
From Denmark to De Pere, this is 97.9 WGBW. Dom Selvia.
Next time, if the federal government can disappear a legal U.S. permanent resident without reason or warrant, can they then disappear U.S. citizens too? Plus, a preview of the Wisconsin Supreme Court debate. Tune in.
The Dom Selvia Show, weekdays 4 till 6. The Todd Alba Show.
Trump and Vance verbally assaulted the president of Ukraine, an ally of the U.S. Trump defending the president of Russia, a known dictator. This is a complete capitulation to our sworn enemies, and it's time for Republicans, my former party that I left in 2011, to speak the hell up, because if we don't, it's not going to be long before we don't have anything left to defend.
The Todd Alba Show, weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app. This is 97.9 WGBW Denmark, Green Bay's real news and great conversation, a Civic Media radio station.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. Analysts say worries about a trade war and possible recession sent Wall Street into another nosedive. The S&P 500 dropped 2.7%. The Dow dropped 890 points. The Nasdaq lost 4%. Canada and Mexico slapping tariffs on some U.S. goods in retaliation to expected U.S. tariffs this week. ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
Wednesday, Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum coming into the country are set to go into effect, which could mean that by Memorial Day, Americans will be paying more for everything from washing machines and toasters to canned goods and cars.
White House statement says business leaders have responded to President Trump's agenda with trillions in investment commitments that will create thousands of jobs. A source close to President Zelensky says Ukraine will propose test ceasefires with Russia on long-range strikes from the air and sea when it meets with U.S. officials in Saudi Arabia Tuesday. This is ABC News.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News, your news roundup in quick podcast form. You can find it anywhere at the WGBW website, wgbw.fm. For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. U.S. Congressman for the 8th Congressional District, Tony Weed, wants to roll back a program that helps pay for electric vehicle charging stations. Weed wants to repeal the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure federal program. He says money is being wasted building the new EV stations. Now, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation has been given $78 million to build charging stations throughout the state, but $63 million of those dollars are now at risk. Weed is supporting legislation he calls the Unplug EV Charging Stations Program Act. It might be worth noting that Weed used to own a chain of gas stations throughout northeast Wisconsin called Dino Stop. On a related note, Tony Weed is holding a teletown hall meeting tonight at 6:45. See our story at WGBW.FM for details. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul joins 20 other attorneys general that moved for a temporary restraining order to stop mass firings and seek reinstatement of federal probationary employees. Melissa Kay reports.
The attorneys general are asking that a federal court order the Trump administration to cease the illegal mass layoffs and to reinstate those who have been fired. AG Kaul stated, quote, "These workers' rights should be protected and the Trump administration should be required to follow the law," end quote. In a lawsuit filed on Friday, the Coalition of Attorneys General claims that the large-scale federal reductions in force, or RIF, are required to follow certain federal laws and regulations. When an RIF results in a layoff of 50 or more employees, the agency must generally give a 60 days advance notice to states' governments so they can provide vital rapid response information, resources, and services to affected workers.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
NFL free agency frenzy. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Packers making moves in free agency. They've decided not to re-sign center Josh Myers. Instead, they bring in 49ers left guard Aaron Banks. The 27-year-old 6'6" Banks agreeing to a 4-year contract with Green Bay worth $77 million. It's likely Elton Jenkins will move from left guard to center. On defense, the Packers adding another player from the Raiders. It's defensive back Nate Hobbs, a 4-year deal worth $46 million, $16 million guaranteed. The Packers losing 27-year-old defensive lineman TJ Slayton today. He'll join the Bengals on a 2-year deal worth over $15 million. NBA, the Bucks headed to Indianapolis to play the Pacers tomorrow night after losing to the Cavaliers at home, 112-100.
Offensively, we're not good enough to win the game. I thought just standard defense, we did enough to win the game. We didn't do anything else enough.
That's Bucks head coach Doc Rivers. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low around 30 to the low 30s. Sunshine returns tomorrow and cooler, highs low 40s. But warmer 40s and 50s, even 60s return for later this week. Showers and storms and windy Friday, rain to snow and blustery Saturday. It's 60 right now.
Appleton Cigar Company on College Avenue has been serving the community for over 25 years. If you are a cigar aficionado looking for a one-of-a-kind experience, you need to check out Appleton Cigar, which boasts the largest selection of cigars north of Milwaukee with over 706 cigars to choose from in a walk-in humidor. The Cigar Lounge offers an impressive variety of spirits and cocktails that pair perfectly with a premium cigar. For the full experience, come to Appleton Cigar at 415 College Ave, Monday through Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. For more information, go to appletoncigar.com.
Ready for the ultimate getaway? Picture this, a cozy cabin in Wisconsin's Northwoods, surrounded by nature's beauty, crystal clear lakes, and endless adventure. Be it fishing, boating, snowmobiling, or just kicking back by a campfire under the stars. This is relaxation like never before. Cook your own meals, enjoy private docks, and even bring your furry friends along for the ride. It's a perfect spot for family fun, a romantic retreat, and more. What kind of trip are you planning? Book your Northwoods vacation rental at simpleLifeRentals.com.
Mino and the Mayor.
On Tuesday's show, Kathy Spears joins us from the Kicking It with the Cows run, and Tyler Fry stops by from the Casco Volunteer Fire Department.
Plus, our friends from HME Home Medical are in to talk about sleep apnea and how they can help.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Night Light with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who likes pina coladas but hates getting caught in the rain, Pete Schwaba.
It is so much fun tonight talking about sack lunches. Even the phrase sack lunch cracks me up. Probably because I'm very immature. But Brian from Milwaukee says turkey stuffing, meatloaf, and sweet potato fries, green beans, and cranberry sauce. That's a great one. That's like Ross Geller's sandwich on Friends, the favorite sandwich. Annie from Watertown says tuna salad sandwich and Cheetos became this great lunch. 6th grade field trip, eating mom's brown bag lunch, sitting in the bus in the rain outside the Chicago Science and Industry Museum, 1968 or 1969. Still a favorite weird drug of food, despite the paths my diet has gone since. It's interesting. Food truly is medicine. You're absolutely right, Annie. That's a great text. And Steve from Florida says, great lunch sandwich is liverwurst and sliced onion. Finish it up with a Little Debbie brownie. I don't know about that, man.
I love Little Debbie's.
You love onions.
Yeah.
You put onions on anything. But all right, Steve. I'd probably start with the Little Debbie brownie and finish with it as well if liverwurst is in, in my lunch. We'll get to the rest of your texts as the show goes on. Please join us. We have the question tonight in honor of National Pack Your Lunch Day is, what is in your sack lunch? My guest right now is Dan Davies. He is a local filmmaker and actor who's doing some really cool things. Very busy guy, taking time out here to be in the studio with me tonight. We'll get to some more of Dan's projects in a minute, but I guess we have a phone call, Conrad. Let's for Dan.
Yes.
All right. Dan's getting all his calls here.
Wow. So do I owe you money?
Yeah, just a dime though. We're going old school. This is who is this, Conrad?
Susan from McFarland.
Susan from McFarland. How are you, Susan?
I'm good, thank you. I was calling because you piqued my interest because there's nothing musical about Ed Gein. So I was just trying to figure out how one makes a musical
well, this is
to take away the sting from Ed Gein behavior. I guess that's my word, my thought.
It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, by the way, Susan. I'm from Wapaka, about 15 minutes from Plainfield. My grandfather worked for the Washoe County DNR. His best friend was the arresting sheriff who arrested Ed Gein. He actually knew who Ed Gein was. When I did the film in 2010, I interviewed a number of people from Plainfield. I also did about 3 years worth of research to find out who Ed was from when he was at Wausau. It was called the Hospital for the Criminally Insane, or Mendota, and had all the psychiatrists and psychologists in the books from Robert Gallmer, and literally learned as much as I could about him. My film is a psychological treatise on why he became who he became. His dad physically abused him, and his mom, they say, sexually abused him. So this was a recipe for disaster. And there is gallows humor throughout the film as well as in the theatrical play, but it's done with respect. I don't glorify Ed. I don't glorify his actions. I don't demean the victims, and I don't minimize what he did. Okay. But there's some funny stuff, and there's great music in it. But just like Sweeney Todd is, how could you make a play about a guy who is a cannibal and serving a lunch counter meats with a human in it. So it's funny, and you walk away with, hopefully you walk away with
an appetite.
Yeah. I just think and it's not because I wrote it and then I'm in it. It's just, I think it's an amazing stage play, and I think it's funny and it's lighthearted, but it's also psychologically, meaningful as well.
Susan, thank you so much. I hope Dan answered your question there.
Yeah, he did. I appreciate that. And, I might watch it.
Thank you, Susan. It's on Tubi right now. It's on.
Okay, thank you so much.
You
Have
bet.
a great night. Drive carefully, Susan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in we have one more. I don't want to miss we've got two more comments for you actually. Dan, you got all your fans turning out here tonight. Daniel from Menasha says, was it difficult to make a kind of the same question, similar question, was it difficult to make a tongue-in-cheek version of Ed Gein's story, if you want to give a condensed version of what we just said to Susan?
And again, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for that great question. It's not really tongue-in-cheek. It's the interrogation, I actually use a lot of the actual words and the things and the questions that the sheriff was asking during the interrogation. And I did as much research to make it as correct as possible. Michael Blake, the guy who wrote the Academy Award winner, Dances with Wolves, had seen our film. He said it's the best film ever on Ed Gein. Now he's passed, he's in heaven right now, but that was the biggest thing. So I think it's a really cool film.
That's awesome. We've got one more for you, Dan. Don't go
Okay.
anywhere. You're not leaving yet, are you?
No.
Okay.
Hell no.
Ezekiel on the watching on Facebook says, "How about some chili made with TLC?" Maybe that wasn't directed to you. Maybe our sack lunch.
So that's an inside joke actually. Ezekiel's playing Ed Gein. So and the TLC is you'll have to see the world premiere of the theatrical play April 4th.
That's great incentive. All right, thank you, Ezekiel, for watching on the stream. And we have another phone call, but this is for our question of the night.
Yep.
This is Ollie from the North Woods who wanted to.
Hi.
Hey, Ollie.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Our old school lunch used to be Mom would pack a tuna sandwich and an orange. And to this day, every time I smell an orange, I go right back to tuna sandwiches at sack lunch in school.
It's like
And another thing that we used to get was every time we went traveling, which we did a lot, Mom always packed a picnic lunch. We never stopped at restaurants, rarely.
Yeah.
And it would always be a warm ham sandwiches, mayo, and a boiled egg.
Whoa. I liked what you offered with the soup question better, Ollie, last week. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, good enough.
I don't know about that ham and egg, but hey, thanks so much for calling in, Ollie.
Alrighty.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening. All right. Dan, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but look at the size of my head compared to yours on the stream.
Well, no,
I feel like my head needs to be in a museum.
Well, you have a ginormous head. And
you're not the first guest that has said that to me, by the way.
But my grandma said, big head, big wit, little head, not a bit.
Oh, you're a witty guy. I wouldn't say you have a small head. Let's
No,
not.
25-inch circumference.
You've measured your head?
Yeah,
Wow.
because somebody said I could be at the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey with a circus freak-like head. When I was a kid, they said, can we show movies on your head? And I'm like, what?
God,
yeah. So I know what that's like. I got a size 8 hat. You know?
I don't even know what my... I should run over
You
to
got a size
Haberdasher.
15. You
It's
got a size-
15. I don't even know what I could
Well,
do
the
with
average
this.
is probably 7.
Is there a
you
way
know?
I can make money off the size of my head?
Well, yeah, put advertising right up there.
Dear McGiddon.
Yeah,
It's right there. So, all right. So, answer this. How did you get started? Like, are there training places? Like, let's say someone from Northeast Wisconsin comes to you and says, hey, I want to do what you do. How do I get started?
Yeah, I tell them, always go online. There are great videos on YouTube that can give you some really good, solid acting advice. Get the professional headshots. Try to do as much film as you can for gratis, for free. A lot of times you'll get gas, and in Wisconsin it's beer and pizza or whatever.
Right.
Do as many of those things as possible. Do as much local theater as possible. If you have the money, go find somebody, Green Bay, Milwaukee, or Madison, that's an acting coach. Take a few classes. There's a lot of stuff online, and just have fun with it. It's tough to do it in Wisconsin. You need to also be able to travel, and that's the biggest thing. But I always say just enjoy yourself with it, and take whatever is given you in the Midwest. So even if you have to be a PA, learn what it's like to be a PA, and then watch the director and watch the actors, and you might find out. And this happens once in a while. You go, well, I don't even want to be an actor anymore. I want to be a lighting technician or a director or the sound guy. That sounds really cool. Or the post-production guy,
Yeah.
Doing editing. So, but yeah, do as many things for free as possible.
And people that do those things, those are good livings too. If
That's
you
the
could get,
thing.
like in the union or whatever, and work a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think people like nowadays, maybe since COVID, but how audition tapes, like sometimes my agent will contact me. I'll do a file on my phone,
Yeah.
and that's acceptable. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, you had to drive to Milwaukee
You
or
bet.
drive to Chicago.
You bet.
Then living in here was much more difficult, would you say?
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about it, to be able to do the auditions just, online.
Yeah.
And if you have a halfway decent phone or even your laptop, you'd be able to do it and send it out. And and you're up against many other people. And like I was saying earlier, a lot of times people see something that I'm in Netflix or Hulu or PBS and go, we like you, we want you to play this. Or can you play a Russian? Can you play this? And I always tell them, yes, I can, even if I can't.
And you learn.
And
you Google something else and try to sound like Igor Stravinsky. All right. We got about a minute and a half left, Dan. Who are your acting influences? Like, who as a kid or even as a young adult could you not turn off when you watch them on TV or in the movies?
You know, the first real actor that I always thought, the first natural actor, everybody says it was Marlon Brando. It was actually Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart was the first natural actor. Prior to him, they'd be like, "Hey there, Bobby, come on over to the soup kitchen."
They were doing characters.
They were doing characters. You know, where Jimmy Stewart's like, "Well, you know what you are, Mr. Potter. You're nothing but a scurvy little spider. The people here live in this community.
Right?
Is it too much to ask that they live in a nice home?" You know, he was real, and
Right.
he's my hero.
Jimmy
And Humphrey
Stewart,
Bogart
nice.
as well.
What did you think about our favorite Humphrey Bogart movie?
Casablanca is my
Rick
favorite.
Blaine.
Yep.
All I want to do when I see that movie is hang out at Rick's American Cafe.
Well,
It's
yeah.
such a great joint,
isn't
man.
it?
Yeah.
That movie is just magic to me.
What did you think about Gene Hackman as an actor? Were you a fan?
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah.
Again, every man. He played Gene Hackman.
Right.
You know, I mean, but he played it well. And he never made a bad movie.
Boy, that's a great point.
He never made
And
a
if
bad
he,
movie.
there are some actors who are so great, even a bad script can't make, they can
Yeah.
help. I don't know. He's great. Tom Cruise, I think, is another one who does not, whether you like Tom Cruise or not personally, because I went through a phase where I was like, and then he's jumping on Oprah's couch. I'm like, whoa, what a weirdo. He's got the Scientology thing always in the forefront, but the guy doesn't make a clunker.
He doesn't make a clunker. People that work with him love him.
Yeah, right. That too.
Yep.
All
They
right.
love him.
Dan, this was fun. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Pete.
Come back soon. Crush
I
it
will.
at the Green Bay Film
this
Festival.
Friday, and then the world premiere Ed Gein musical, April 4.
Outstanding.
Thank
Dan
you, Pete.
Davies. Go see him this Friday, Green Bay Film Festival. We're coming back with some fantasy baseball talk. It's Pete Schwaba and Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network. You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba.
Celebrate the women who have helped shape the world as we honor Women's History Month with powerful stories of Wisconsin's own. We remember the legacy of Val Phillips, the trailblazing civil rights leader. Is also the first African-American woman elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly. Phillips was born in Milwaukee, and though she faced both racial and gender barriers, she remained strong in her fight for equality. She helped pass groundbreaking laws to desegregate public housing while also fighting for voting rights. Her courage and determination wasn't just for Wisconsin, but for the nation. And Phillips' legacy continues to inspire those who believe in justice, showing that one voice can spark change. These are the stories continuing to inspire all of us every day. And as we honor them, we will also recognize the powerful women who are still writing history. I'm Terry Barr.
Ready for the April election? Here's a special invitation for you. Join the free Protecting Justice for All conversation about the Wisconsin Supreme Court race Wednesday, March 12th from 5 till 7 p.m. at the Overture Center in Madison.
Up North News radio host Pat Kreitlow, Civic Media's Todd Alba, and Dan Schaefer will lead a guest discussion about the economy, education, environment, and more. Then stay for the Candidates Debate Watch Party.
Attend in person or listen to live coverage from the Overture Center in Madison, Wednesday night, March 12th from 5 till 7 on your local Civic Media radio station and the app. Matt Nair on air.
Will Westmoreland is joining us now. He is a farmer in southwestern Missouri.
This is an 80-20 Republican area down here. You can't throw a rock without hitting a Republican. And I still know all the guys I graduated with. So I always ask, don't admit you were wrong, just admit you were lied to. That's a lot easier to do. If you just admit you were lied to, you can get over here with us and start working to fight the problem.
Matt Nair.
That Eddie Gein, he's referring to, was partial to fava beans and Chianti served cold. I cannot, nor do I want to confirm or deny that. And Tyler says, in his sack lunch. I would imagine so. fictitious character. We can give him whatever we want, right? Tony the trucker says, Pete, my lunch bag is the biggest igloo cooler made. So it's like a small suitcase. In it, I have 3 bottles of water, a bottle of Cran Energy drink, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yogurt, granola, an energy bar, carrot sticks, cheese sticks, an orange, grapes, a banana, and Triscuit crackers. I usually work 10 to 12 hours a day, so this covers lunch and supper. Sounds like a lot, right? Yeah, it sounds like you're preparing for the apocalypse, Tony. That's great. Tony the trucker. I thought he was our overnight listener. Or is that a different trucker? That's Tony the tiger. Tony, thank you for the text. That's awesome, dude. What is in your sack lunch, folks? It's National Pack Your Lunch Day. That's the question of the night. Did I get all these, Con? I think I'm caught up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
All
definitely.
right. People love food questions. We got to have maybe we'll do like a recipe thing.
It's just not the question of the night anymore. It's just food questions.
Just food questions. We'll do that. All right. So very exciting, folks. Tomorrow night on the show from the Overture Center, Tim Sowers will join me. I'll be live from Madison. And then Jeff Blankenship, the director, will join me. And we might have a surprise guest. We'll see what happens. But it'll be another fun night on Nightlight. Right now, we are turning our attention to something I know nothing about. And that's why I'm excited. A guy that works here at WGBW, he's got great accounts. He works his butt off. Peter Van Doren joins me now. He approached me about a couple weeks ago and said, hey, would you ever want to do a fantasy baseball thing? I said, yes, because I don't get it. Pete, I've done football. I've done fantasy football. I hear that fantasy baseball is much more, you have to really immerse yourself in it.
Well, I think in some ways it is a little more involved, but the way I look at it is that, with fantasy football, you're still, looking at your lineup, you're, scouting the, available players that aren't claimed and already on fantasy teams. You are, checking injury reports, making trade proposals. The difference essentially is just with fantasy baseball, you're just checking your lineup more often,
Right.
And if you're playing fantasy football rather intensely, you're probably on that website, several times a day anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least, once a day.
If you're passionate about it.
All right. About it.
I have to back up because I think there's a lot of people probably that don't really know. Let's start like we're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Tell us what fantasy baseball is.
Sure. So I actually want to just, get this presented well. So I researched Wikipedia. Fantasy baseball is a game in which participants serve as owners and general managers of virtual baseball teams. The competitors select their rosters by participating in a draft in which all relevant Major League Baseball players are available. So the fantasy points are awarded based on actual performance of baseball players in real-world competition.
Okay.
And so what that means essentially is that, you are the owner of a fantasy team. You have real players on this team, and you're playing on a server. In this day and age, like almost every major news sports outlet probably has a fantasy football site to go with it. Yahoo, ESPN,
sure,
CBS Sports. You can play on all those websites.
Okay.
With the game of fantasy baseball, there's essentially 2 different formats, right? You've got head-to-head, which is very similar to how people play fantasy football.
Meaning the team that you oversee plays against someone else.
Another real-life person.
Real-life
yes,
person. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And basically at the end of the week, you win. How baseball's a little bit different is it goes by categories instead of just kind of a cumulative score based on real, NFL players' performance.
Okay.
So that's one style that's, very popular. The other most popular format is rotisserie. In rotisserie fantasy baseball leagues, you're trying to build based on select categories, and you're trying to lead the league in each of those categories. So when you think of like major, stats in baseball, you've got like batting average, home runs, stolen bases.
Okay.
You're trying to, essentially accumulate, more of that than the rest of your opponents in the league. So both of them, and really most of fantasy sports for season long, we talk about the season long, it just involves the regular season. So it's, all 162 games of the baseball season.
That's a commitment.
Yeah. And last year there was 163 because the Mets played that extra game.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
when you say there's rotisserie, there's one-on-one. When you're doing rotisserie, are there still one-on-one matchups?
there's no matchups with the rotisserie. You're competing against everybody
Is
simultaneously.
that less, like if you were going to participate or join a league, is rotisserie less time-consuming?
I don't know that it's less time consuming. I think they both take up about the same amount of time.
Okay.
I like the challenge of rotisserie because I think that oftentimes in a head-to-head league, you can be very dominant in some categories.
Okay.
And that'll carry you through. But with rotisserie, it really kind of exposes those weekends. You have to have a very balanced team.
Okay.
And that's why when we look at fantasy baseball players, oftentimes the more desired hitters are going to be those players that put up, they call it like 5 categories. And, it's stolen bases, home runs, RBIs, runs, batting average.
Okay.
If you have a very complete player like that, it's easy to put them in your lineup every day. You're going to get all those counting stats in your favor.
Do they, in baseball, do they track defense like they do? I know that was kind of an addition.
There is not. No.
Okay.
No, often in fantasy football, you play like a defensive team. And it's just kind of how that squad does as a whole in a given game. Baseball, typically there's no defense involved in it.
So even if a guy wins a Gold Glove, he's dead to the fantasy baseball world.
Yeah, it's pretty much offense.
So
It's pretty much offensive production and pitching.
Okay. All right. Peter Van Doren is here, folks. We're talking fantasy baseball. I don't know much about it. I'm trying to learn a little bit about it. I know the basics of fantasy football. And when I joined fantasy football here at Civic Media, I had Rocker saw that I was not taking it seriously. He's one of the Max Inc. radio hosts, and he said, I just want to remind you, you're in the pro league here. We have a smaller league if you'd rather do that. So
I won that league this year. The pro league.
Very well done. I didn't join at all. I know my limitations. We're coming back. Civic Media's award-winning news team is about to tell you what you need to know, and then we'll be back reading your texts and talking more with Peter Van Doren about fantasy baseball. This is Pete Schwaba and Nite Lite. So glad you're with me on this Monday night, this gorgeous Monday night on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Pronouns, names, and school districts are at the center of a debate in Madison. Civic Media's Joanne Krulatz reports.
At the state capitol, lawmakers debate a bill that would require school districts to implement policies stating that parents determine the names and pronouns of students used by school staff. Oconomowoc Republican Representative Barbara Dittrich co-authored the legislation.
In our schools, we don't allow our kids to take a Tylenol without permission from parents. A major life choice, and transitioning and changing your name is a major life choice, is something parents should be involved in.
Transgender rights supporters voiced their opposition to a bill that would require local districts to implement such policies.
If these bills were to pass, I fear that young people would have fewer people to go to, that there would be an increase in bullying, self-harm, and suicide among our young people.
They need just one place to have their risk of suicide be reduced dramatically. This bill, AB 103, will take away one of those places.
Representatives from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty and Moms for Liberty Wisconsin support the bill, stating that parents should determine the names and pronouns of students used by school staff.
Imagine discovering that for months, school staff have been treating your daughter as if she is your son, or vice versa, without you knowing about it. I've received that call from far too many Wisconsin parents in the last few years.
If a child under 18 isn't legally allowed to drop out of school without parental consent, how is it that a school is allowed to create a whole new identity for that same child without their parents' consent?
Democratic Governor Tony Evers has said he would veto any legislation he feels harms Wisconsin's LGBTQ plus youth.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. New releases in theaters this past weekend all seemed to limp to the finish line for different reasons. Acclaimed director Bong Joon-ho's new film, Mickey 17, did finish first at the box office with $19 million, but that was a bit of a disappointment. The film starring Robert Pattinson cost almost $120 million to make and is not expected to recoup. This was the director's first big studio budget after winning a Best Director Oscar for Parasite 5 years ago. The other new releases were Rule Breakers, which got excellent reviews from critics and even better from audiences, but brought in just $1.5 million at the box office on over 2,000 screens. In the Lost Lands, starring Mila Jovovich and David Bautista, stunk up theaters with barely over $1 million at the gate and terrible reviews. Captain America managed to hang on to the number 2 slot, followed by Last Breath, The Monkey, and Paddington in Peru, which finished in 5th place. Tough week. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low around 30 to the low 30s. Sunshine returns tomorrow and cooler, highs low 40s. But warmer 40s and 50s, even 60s return for later this week. Showers and storms and windy Friday, rain to snow and blustery Saturday. Currently, it's 59 degrees.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Folks, I'm talking with Jill Rosenthal. Trump is proposing to make incredibly drastic cuts to the NIH.
The National Institutes of Health, the state receives almost $600 million. That pays for over 7,000 jobs in Wisconsin and accounted for almost $1.5 billion in economic activity in 1 year.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. The Todd Alba Show.
Trump and Vance verbally assaulted the president of Ukraine, an ally of the U.S. Trump defending the president of Russia, a known dictator. This is a complete capitulation to our sworn enemies. And it's time for Republicans, my former party that I left in 2011, to speak the hell up. Because if we don't, it's not going to be long before we don't have anything left to defend.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show.
Every time I think of you, I feel a shot right through the bow of blue. It's no problem of mine, but it's a problem I find. Living a life that I can't.
Nice day out, folks. But we're making it even better. We're talking sack lunches and acting and fantasy baseball. And Bridget checks in from the 818 on the text line. She says, my mom packed a PBJ sandwich with butter. Oh, that's a Wisconsin thing. Butter on peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, so it's...
Or on a ham sandwich.
PB and B and J?
PB and J and B. Just to complicate things. She thought it was a treat. I didn't particularly like the butter, but I thought that was how they were made. Oh, man. Bridget's mom totally steered her wrong. Unintentionally, I'm sure. But no, that's the thing in Wisconsin, too, ham sandwiches. I go to my wife's family reunions in New London, and they had ham sandwiches. They were serving ham sandwiches with butter and mayo. And I thought the guy was joking when he said, I go, oh, what's on this? Butter and mayo. And I kind of went, and there was nothing from the guy. He's like, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't think I could eat that. I don't think I could muscle that down if you paid me. And then we got some comments on the stream. This is Rondo Huckbody. Rondo, if that's not made up, I apologize. It sounds made up, and I love it either way. He says, knock it out of the park, Pete. Is that you?
Yeah.
There's two Pete's here.
That's a friend of mine.
That's a friend. Is that his real name?
Yeah. Well,
come on,
Aaron. It's Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's okay. Oh, what happened? We got something going on here with the stream. So, is he in fantasy baseball with you?
He is not. No.
Okay.
No. I know from like way back in the day. Used to take out P-buys together. Where?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And Rondo says, who are the key players on your pro league team? First, let's get to that in a second. Pete, what is in your sack lunch?
Sure. What's in my sack lunch?
Your sack lunch. You're putting your lunch together at home.
Well, yeah. So, like, I cut some venison sausage the other day. Like some venison summer sausage.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of that this week.
Okay. I can tell by your rosy glow you've been eating a lot of venison sausage.
Yeah.
Peter Van Doren, ladies and gentlemen, joining me in the studio tonight. He's part of the team here at WGBW, does great work, sales, and you've got your accounts are crushing, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm in sales. I work, kind of between here as well as WISS, which is, our Appleton and Oshkosh station. Appleton and Oshkosh are official affiliates of the Milwaukee Brewers.
I was going to ask you about that. So why don't you elaborate on that?
Definitely want to give a shout out to that.
Yeah.
So we've got all the games, all 162 plus. Right now we've got spring training going on.
Wow.
We are going to have the playoffs, I think, right up through the World Series. I mean, potentially, hopefully the Brewers make it. We'll see what happens with them, But we are looking for business sponsors for that too. So if you were a business owner or you do marketing for a company, definitely reach out to us. You can give us a call here in the studio. Conrad will pick up, take your information, and we'll totally get you set up as an in-game sponsor of the Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm just going to tell you, folks, here's what a great closer Pete is when it comes to sales. He got me to buy advertising on my own show. So it's Night Lite with Pete Schwaba, sponsored by Night Lite Pete. I'm out 10 grand somehow, and it was like I was totally hoodwinked, and I just went with it. So the guy knows his stuff. But so, all right, now we'll go back to, I'm sorry, your sack lunch is?
Venison sauce. Venison summer sausage. Yeah, well,
no fiber,
I pack an apple. You maybe like a bag of Doritos.
Any dipping sauce for the venison?
No, not too much. Like usually like a ranch, like a spicy mustard. It's pretty good.
What would make you a real man is if you brought venison sausage and dipped it in the actual blood of the animal.
That would be pretty wicked. Yeah. Wow.
You'd have a serious glow working then. Peter Van Doren, we're talking fantasy baseball. Your friend Rondo Huckbody, real name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I think he clarified
sort of,
that.
yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Real nickname.
Real nickname.
He says, who were key players on your pro league team? So we're talking fantasy baseball. Before we get to Rondo's question, it works a lot like fantasy football. There's just a lot more to keep up on, right?
Yeah, there's definitely more to keep up on because there's more players.
Yeah.
But another aspect of it that I do really enjoy with fantasy baseball is that because there are more players, typically the rosters are bigger. You have a little bit bigger selection of players. So you may not need to have kind of that record-breaking player on your team. Like you don't have to have like Peyton Manning setting the single-season touchdown mark or Calvin Johnson, catching the most passes of all time. And, in fantasy baseball, I mean, sure, having like a Shohei Ohtani is like a huge asset. I mean, the guy put up like 50 home runs, 59 steals last year. But, but at the same time, because the rosters are bigger, it maybe is not like as much of a single deciding factor by having like that player in the middle of a record-breaking season in fantasy baseball.
Okay. And I assume it's like football where the top guys, the guys with the best stats are the first to go in a draft. Does the draft take forever compared to a fantasy football draft?
Kind of depends on the timer. I mean, I suppose probably about 2 hours maybe in like an average 10 or 12 team league. Oh, it's about the same.
Okay. So, all right. So like I said, for those who don't play, your friend Rondo's question, who are the key players on your pro league team? Who did you draft, Pete, that you're excited about?
Well, let's see. So I compete in a couple cash leagues every year. And one of them I do is actually a keeper league, which allows you to keep 3 players every season.
Okay.
And we've been doing the keeper league for several years now. This season, I'm planning on keeping Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles, shortstop. I have Corbin Carroll from the Diamondbacks, an outfielder, as well as Kyle Tucker, who recently got traded to the Cubs last season.
Okay.
So,
what does this mean anything to you, Conrad? Can you vouch that these are good players?
I can vouch that they're good keepers.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you play fantasy baseball?
Well, I know I did draft a team this year, but I drafted Garrett Cole, so that just sucks there.
Oh yeah, it's kind of a tough break there. Yeah,
he mentioned that. That's like, how much does it cost to play fantasy baseball? Like compared to football, about the same.
It's however much you want.
Yeah,
like the keeper league I'm in is the Vladimir Guerrero Invitational. I want to give a shout out to those guys. Cox Sammies is one of the team
Watch
names.
your language.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Cox Sammies.
One more time.
Cox Sammies. That's his team name. I'm not going to tell you about the picture he has at his profile.
That's his team name?
That's his team name, yeah.
Do you want to know my brother? I'll just tell the story quick. He had the Twitter handle at UW Badgers. he got, when Twitter first came out, my brother Andrew had at UW Badgers. So obviously Wisconsin wanted that for their own Twitter account. And
Yeah.
they said, well, if you don't give it to us, we're going to sue you. And he said, well, I'm a lawyer. Bring it on. And, at the end of the day, he graduated from there. It's his place. He loves it. He says, look, I'll give it to you. Let's not, whatever. And they said, oh, great. Well, what can we do for you? And he goes, I'll tell you what. Like, instead of asking for season tickets, he asked for a signed football from Barry Alvarez and a signed basketball from Bo Ryan. And they said, yeah, we can make that happen. So he takes a picture of the two balls, and his fantasy football team name that year was Special Balls.
Oh, God.
And his son saw it, his 11-year-old son. He goes, Dad, you can't do that. I mean, you know what that means, right? He's like, he had to play dumb because he didn't want his kid to. But yeah, those names, those risque names are all over fantasy sports.
Oh,
right?
definitely. Yeah, it's a
Very
very
immature.
It's a very lowbrow humor at times. Yeah.
Peter Van Dorn is here. He is part of the WGBW team here. He does great work regarding sales, and he was just pitching how Civic Media got the Brewers on WISS.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exciting.
Email me. I'll tell you more.
Yeah.
Peter at civicmedia.us.
Very simple. How did you get started in fantasy baseball, and when? Was it already kind of in the throes of its popularity, or were you an early
I would
entry?
say it was in the throes of its popularity. I mean, bear in mind the sport precedes the internet. That's how long it's been around.
I want to talk about that too.
I actually did some
Yeah.
research on this.
That surprised me.
The sport of fantasy baseball, apparently back in 1980, a bunch of writers assembled at a cafe, Latisserie Francais was the name of the cafe, and that's why
Sounds
it became
made up.
Rotisserie Baseball. Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's crazy, but who knows? Sometimes the origins are very obscure. Like, I know John Madden took credit for starting fantasy football.
Is that not true?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I watched some kind of NFL pregame, and he talked all about it. Yeah.
John Madden also took credit for writing all the code for Madden, the video game. So he's kind of full. A great
Yeah.
guy, but come on, let's be honest.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so you started, what year was that about?
Oh, so I started around early 2000. About 2000.
So how did that work before the internet? How on earth did fantasy baseball or football, for that matter, happen?
People were literally just reading their daily newspaper, checking box scores. They were drafting in person or over the phone. All the scoring was basically just done.
You just kept it
manually.
yourself.
How I talked about how earlier I talked about how each category is scoring categories where you're trying to get the most home runs in the league over the course of the season. Well, for that, I mean, people had to just keep track of it manually.
And trust that everybody else in their league. Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to lie about that stuff, I'm sure. Stats are stats,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's just evolved so much, especially when it comes to daily lineups where you can just kind of assemble the perfect team for just a day and see how they will perform.
Yeah.
A lot of people legally do legal betting on that now, so it's
Isn't
real
that
popular
crazy?
too. Yeah,
You can bet on fantasy baseball.
yeah,
Pete
yeah.
Rose bet on actual baseball.
Right.
And paid the price for it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Wow.
I have mixed feelings with him too. That's a
I
whole
do
other
too.
topic.
He seems like kind of a jerk, but you can't deny what a phenomenal player he was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he definitely was. But for me, I think it was the new commissioner came in and he met with Pete Rose. Pete Rose made one last plea to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he kind of was turned down because of his actions. They said that Pete Rose hadn't changed his lifestyle at all. He was still, very much a compulsive gambler, still in Vegas all the time, and just
right.
It was just kind of that he hadn't really shown any, I guess, remorse with what he'd done.
And that's I don't have much knowledge, but I feel like if he didn't bet on his team, even if he bet on baseball, that might be, with time, you can forgive that. But if he bet on his own team and affected the outcomes of the game, I have no problem with him not being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I way off there, or is that?
No,
something
I think it's definitely in line. Yeah, that's
all right. So your friend Rondo Huckbody says, I just love saying that. Did you draft any Packers? Wait a minute.
Well, I mean, Packers be football, right?
Yeah.
But the thing with any fantasy sport, I think, is that you really, don't want to hold a grudge against anybody. I mean, for instance, I mentioned I have Kyle Tucker on my fantasy baseball team. He's a Cub.
Right.
Well, you really want to be open-minded and not just limit yourself to your favorite team or your favorite
Sure.
players. So, unfortunately, oftentimes when we do play in these leagues in Wisconsin, like we're in, you find that people are paying up a little bit more for, players from the Packers, the Brewers. So, I'm trying to think if I drafted any Packers. I think I had Jordan Love in like one league.
Oh,
yeah, it was kind of mixed results.
Yeah.
I mean, had like an okay, not
missed some
like
time,
stellar
though.
season. Yeah,
That probably didn't help things.
Yeah, it didn't help too much.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer fantasy baseball over fantasy football?
I do, yeah. I like the challenge of it.
Yeah.
I like drafting. I like just being able to like go after players. It takes a lot of patience,
Yeah.
because I mean, baseball is fairly inconsistent at times, and also there are a lot of stretches that go along with it. That's how you kind of look at it with fantasy football. Is that every Sunday is just like wham, here's all these results, whereas baseball's a little more drawn out.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, do you think you can keep up with this, Conrad?
Yeah.
Okay. Every day you got to update, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah, every day you got to update. I follow some fantasy baseball podcasts. I also like CBS Sports, one of my favorites. For football, though, I listen to like lots of NBC Sports, lots of ESPN. Matthew Berry is a great fantasy columnist for fantasy football.
I have to be honest. All I can think about right now is you wolfing down venison sausage and listening to podcasts.
This is just what I do. Yeah, I like check my lineup while I'm doing that. It's
Peter Van Doren is here. We're talking fantasy baseball. All right. So, how are you doing so far? Or how did you do last year, I should say?
Well,
let's start with that. Let's do a quick break. We'll come back. I want to find out just how good you are at fantasy baseball. We'll do that. I'm going to ask Peter what he's watching on TV and movies, so be ready for that. No fantasy there, buddy. It's the real thing. Fiction. We're going to come right back and close this thing up with our pal, Peter Van Doren. He's very tall. Can you dunk?
no, not quite.
No?
No.
All right.
I can take credit for dunking.
We'll talk about that. We're coming right back. Great to have you with me on this Monday night. Beautiful day here in Wisconsin. It's Pete Schwaba and Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Picture waking up to stunning waterfront views on Lake Michigan with private beach access right outside your door. Can you see it? Make it a reality and book a vacation rental in Door County, Wisconsin and discover a world of natural beauty and relaxation. Explore charming small towns full of arts, shopping, and history. Head out for boating, kayaking, and hiking in scenic parks or stop and sip local wines at Door County's best wineries and breweries. What kind of trip are you planning? Find your perfect Door County getaway today at simpleliferentals.com.
The annual Pi Day 5K Run Walk is back, and it's the 11th year. It's going to be held on March 15th outside of the Leonardo da Vinci School in Green Bay. This run walk is very unique because it was completely organized by the 5th graders who go there. And all proceeds are going toward the Old Glory Honor Flight. If you're looking for a fun way to celebrate Pi Day, this is it. Head to WGBW.FM, click events, and sign up. Don't let those 5th graders down.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Folks, we've got to talk about Derek Van Orden. The second-term congressman representing Wisconsin's 3rd District is at it again, dodging public meetings and making all kinds of unhinged comments. As many scramble and struggle to understand the chaos of what's happening in Washington, D.C., and how it's impacting people here in Wisconsin, Van Orden has been as frustrating and disrespectful as ever. In one instance, Van Orden took to social media to berate a veteran who had been fired from his job at the VA by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. And the veteran in question is simply someone who was just reaching out to his congressman, looking for answers. Van Orden's office has also hastily canceled public meetings, and he has made some especially wild accusations about people who have been attending these public events. Congressman Van Orden needs to stop this unhinged madness, and more importantly, be more available and accountable to his constituents.
Find
Tomorrow night on Nightlight, I'm live from Madison, which will be fun. We'll have our old pal Tim Sowers. He is going to literally walk across the street from the Overture Center and join me in the studio, and we'll talk about some fun shows coming up at the Overture. And then director Jeff Blankenship joins me tomorrow, possibly in studio as well in Madison. And we might even have a surprise guest. Lots of fun every time we're in Madison. And then Wednesday night, I'll just take this opportunity to plug. There's a political event. And then we're doing a shortened show. It's just an hour, but it's going to be all Big Lebowski talk. We're going to celebrate the Day of the Dude and do a Lebowski quiz. It's going to be great fun. So join me Wednesday night as well, although that will not be live. And great guests the rest of the week, too. Mary Mack joins me on Thursday to make the popcorn pick of the week. And Appleton-based comedian Rob Brackenridge will be here in studio. Rob's always a blast. And Bar Band Friday night coming up. All kinds of fun stuff headed your way on Nightlight. Peter Van Doren is my guest here. We're talking about fantasy baseball, and he is a big enthusiast and a big guy. What are you, 6'4"?
About 6'3".
You think you could beat Conrad in an arm wrestle?
We should try that after the show.
What if Pete's arm was like a foot longer than yours?
It probably is. I have short arms.
Can we make like a fundraiser out of this?
Oh,
or
that would be
something?
fun.
Good, yeah.
I
Go over a Heights
get
pub.
in on that. Take a place of better too. Have you ever seen? I watch reels sometimes at night when I'm bored, like on Instagram.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That clip. I don't know if you guys saw this of Lenny Randle, a pitcher. This is like in the 70s. I remember him as a player. A pitcher threw at Lenny Randle. Either it didn't hit him because he was still up, so he went down, just missed his head. Lenny Randle on the next pitch lays down a bunt to the first base side. The pitcher goes after the bunt. Lenny Randle goes out of the baseline and just drills him as payback. That was baseball in the 70s, like when it was just, I mean, it was insane. And obviously both benches erupted, and I'm sure they got kicked out, but it's a great clip.
You know, and the sport has just changed so much too over time. It's, really interesting, and it actually has an effect on fantasy sports, right?
Right.
Well, we had several years ago, there's often scarcity in fantasy sports with certain positions. And a few years back, I guess it was, mainly like middle infielders that were kind of a little bit, of a commodity. I mean, just that there weren't a lot of really like top end players, kind of in uneven distribution, of players that were going to give you like quality stats and be startable weekend or day in, day out. And with that being said, it's actually shifted, for any number of reasons. Rules, different equipment, bigger base paths, so whereas before, steals were kind of a commodity, now steals are everywhere. There's like, I don't know how many.
That was
players.
always my favorite baseball. I love teams that used to steal. And kind of play aggressively like that. Pete, have you ever won? Not ever, but where do you rank? Like on all the years you've played, how often do you bring home money?
I was actually just looking this up. I would say probably with fantasy sports, I play in enough leagues annually that if I break even, that's kind of my goal.
That's not why you're doing it to get rich, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that's so. Typically if I break even, but looking at like my profile on Yahoo, which is a server I play a lot of my fantasy sports on, I'm actually gold level, I guess. So
sweet.
Since 2001, I've played in over 700 fantasy leagues. Between football and baseball, like a 60% winning percentage.
Dude, it's too bad you're married. You would get so many chicks with that information, right? Is it a good place? Is that a good place to meet girls playing fantasy sports?
It's social. It's just not quite
It's
that
great.
kind of social.
No, and the years I've played fantasy football and I've actually tried, it is really fun. Sometimes though, when you're busy, that's like the first thing you kick loose. It's like a side hobby, but. How do you like your chances this year?
Well, I think it's going to be, a good season. I think that there's a lot of players that are fairly straightforward to assess. One thing that gets kind of thrown around every now and then with fantasy sports are these boom or bust type players where they either make or break you. And I don't know that there's quite as many of those being drafted early this season in fantasy baseball as there have in years past. One example of a player that's boom or bust Jacob deGrom. I mean, if you're familiar with the pitcher,
Yeah.
just signed with the
Crazy
Rangers.
hair, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
spent all those years with the Mets.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's been injured so often, you know. I
Yeah.
think it's been 2 or 3 seasons since he put together a complete season, but he's been like just, you know, lights out when he's been on the mound. But it's just like, is this guy going to stay healthy? So for that reason, if you're drafting him early this year, he's going to be real boomer bust. Like, he's going to like make it or break it for you.
This has been fun. I got to read a text comment, and if I have time, I'm going to ask you one more question. So Craig Kinnett checks in on the stream and says, Pete, I thought Mickey 17 was fun. I didn't realize he was Robert Pattinson until the credits rolled. Wow. He said, I found it odd that there was only one species on that planet. Not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I enjoyed it. Cool concept. I agree it was a cool concept, Craig, and I didn't hate it. It was 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon sitting in a movie theater with my wife. What could be better, right?
Cool.
Pete,
Yeah.
you love your wife, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
She a keeper?
And my kid. Yeah, like a 6-year-old. Keeps me busy.
All right, we have about, Conrad, how much time do we have? Like a minute?
Yeah.
Less. Rondo says, hey, Pete, what do you think? What do you look forward to in the future of fantasy baseball? You got 30 seconds. Answer your buddy's question. That's great.
What do I look forward to the future of fantasy baseball? I would say just the longevity of it. I mean, that's what makes baseball great. That's what I love about
It's not going anywhere.
Is just that it's not going anywhere. It's a rich history. I think that's just going to keep continuing.
Pete, keep up the great work. You do great stuff here at WGBW.
Thanks, man.
It's great to know you, and thank you for pitching this segment. I love it, and it's fun to get to know you more and learn more about fantasy baseball.
Yeah,
so thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for having me.
Anytime, bud. I'd like to thank all my guests, Peter Van Doren, Dan Davies, who was here in person. Thank you for all your texts and calls. Always fun here on Night. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night. On behalf of the lovable producer, Conrad, good night, Wisconsin.
Take me to your best friend's house.